Thank you, Ludmila. I am Svetlana Bogolepova. As you have been told already, I teach at HSC University and also I supervise the bachelor's program called Foreign Languages and Intercultural Communication. But I also have an experience of teaching English to non-linguistic students, as we can say. So today I will speak about course design for English for specific purposes. So first of all, let us discuss what English for specific purposes is. So the motto, we can say, of any English for specific purposes course is tell me what you want, tell me what you need English for, and I will tell you what kind of English you need, right? So the needs of the student will they will pave the way to the whole course that we're going to teach to the students. So, but English for specific purposes is not just a level field. There are several groups of several spheres, that can be identified in English for specific purposes. This is narrow English for specific purposes, for example, English for airplane pilots or English for nurses. So for some narrow profession, right? And there is English for specific purposes for a wider field, such as, for example, business communication. English for business communication. So, dear colleagues, just to create a kind of interactivity, can you use the chat box and in the chat box write which type you personally teach? Narrow is ESP, such as for pilots or nurses, or wide ESP, English for business communication or for academic purposes, which is actually a branch of English for specific purposes. So any responses in the chat box? Which do you teach, narrow or wide? So Irina, thank you. Wide. Actually, mostly at our universities, we teach wide ESP, even if it is English for example, economists. It covers a lot of ground. Yeah, it's English for finance, English for economists in different fields. So in our Russian universities, it's mostly this wide ESP rather than narrow ESP. So any English course is related in content to some particular English for specific purposes course is related in content to some particular disciplines, occupations and activities, and therefore it teaches the language appropriate for those activities. So I want to draw your attention to the word activities here, because we sometimes neglect this when we design English for specific purposes courses. So, but before we come to the activities, let's speak about how any course of in the English language can be designed. So Julia and Bolitho, they suggest several stages. This is the evaluation of needs. You evaluate if actually somebody needs this course, these materials you're designing. Exploration of needs. This is actually needs analysis, in which you understand what your students need English for in their professional life, in their future professional life, or maybe now, if it is English for academic purposes. Then comes contextual realization. So you think about the context, the reading materials, the audio text, maybe videos, or linguistic material that you will use in your course, and pedagogical realization. You actually decide what you do to these contexts and linguistic features you have identified and you have chosen. Then students use your materials, for example, the whole course or part of your course, and then they evaluate the materials you have designed. So these steps actually they correlate well with the well-known EDI course design model. It's not just for English teaching or for language teaching, it's for course design of anything, yeah, to teach anything. So here we also have evaluation at the end and analysis, needs analysis at the start, and implementation before evaluation. So similar steps as any course in any subject. But there are some specific things in a course teaching the English language. We understand that, and there are some pedagogical and methodological features which have to be taken into account. So let's look at these stages in greater depth. So needs analysis, it's at the beginning. The second step, as we have found out, yeah, firstly, you evaluate the need. So is there a need for the textbook on the market or at your university? Is there a gap you need to fulfill with your book or with your course? Then you conduct needs analysis to understand what your students actually need. So you will tell me actually, I will ask you in a minute what they may, what you can uncover through needs analysis. So any ESP course is based on needs analysis and it specifies exactly what students have to do through the medium of English. Again, activities, first language, second. So I will ask you again to use the chat box and to write what you can identify through needs analysis. What? So we have the definition. Identify what the students have to do through the medium of English. So what can hide behind these words, what they have to do through the medium of English? Any ideas to share in the chat box?
Nobody wants to share any ideas.
Okay, several already. We seem to underestimate our colleagues. So what students know, want to learn, and what they need to know. Yeah, what they already know, it's important to understand. Because when we speak about an ESP course, we have to understand what they know, not only in the English language, but in their specialty. Because sometimes we ourselves learn a lot when we get ready for ESP classes or prepare an ESP course. And for us, it's new information, and we are excited to learn something new about some turbines rotating to the left or to the right at the depths of the ocean. But we may underestimate our students' knowledge. They may know that already. And if we teach it, we need to use just the context as the source of the language. So want to learn, wants are not always needs, but they have to be taken into account. I agree. We will speak about this effective thing. Skills they need, right? Because any job is not just the language. In many cases, ESP courses are just terms that are used in mathematics or physics, for example. But they need particular skills. For example, they need to be able to write a kind of paper or if we speak about specific academic purposes, right? Because in different disciplines, students write different papers, and if they want to take some postgraduate course, they have to submit different papers, and even in their professional life, they create different products depending on the field they're working in. So they will need different skills for that. Goals of the students. So yeah, it's very important, Anna, thank you, how exactly they use English in their work, intended use. So people who create ESP courses, they in many cases go, for example, if it is an ESP course for pilots, they go to the company who certifies pilots, and they listen to these communicative situations these pilots are involved in, or nurses are involved in, yeah, if it is language for nurses or medical professionals, and they analyze these particular situations the language is used in. They try to identify the roles students will have to take in their professional life. So when they are ready-made engineers, what will they do? They will have to work at a factory, welcome, for example, foreign visitors, and tell them what their factory does, and try to negotiate some cooperation, for example, like this. For tasks, yeah, professionals in different fields fulfill. The peculiarities of discourse, you may know that pilots use very specific discourse when they communicate, or medical professionals, yeah, because it's not only knowing the names of some diseases or illnesses, but trying to listen to a person, to a naive individual, not knowing what the name of the disease is, and trying to explain what actually hurts. It's also it's an art in a native language, but in a foreign language, it's double difficulty, double trouble. So functional language and structures used in different communicative situations, and when they fulfill different roles, and also lacks what they actually do not have in their linguistic repertoire to be successful in their field, or in their study, and also the existing knowledge and skills. But there are also subjective needs, which are everyone has their own background, their own preferences and attitudes and expectations of the whole course. And cultural peculiarities have to be taken into account, because these are two different things, teaching a course to Chinese students or to Russian students. And expectations are important, because however brilliant a course is, if you do not meet your students' expectations, they may fail the course and they may be dissatisfied. So all these things can be revealed and should be revealed through needs analysis. The question is, how can we do that? So we have already described the situations when course designers go and conduct some field studies. They try to pick, listen to, yeah, professionals in different fields communicating in specific situations, carrying out different tasks. What else can be done? Could you share your ideas in the chat box, please? So situations, the language used for in specific situations and to fulfill specific duties or tasks. What else can be revealed through needs analysis. So what else? And how can we review, apart from going and watching and listening and asking some professionals? Do not forget we have the subjective needs of our students, which are not actually outstanding, but we have to at least know them before we start developing a course. So can't see any responses yet. So I hope they will come a bit later. For the time being, I'll switch to the next one. So we have spoken about observations. Interviews with professionals are also, already an option. Surveys among professionals and among students, both. Job analysis, so what they actually do and how they, what professionals actually do and how they do it, and what kind of language they use for this purpose. Analysis of documents, because if you, for example, are teaching some business English course, you can analyze a real life documentation reports to understand what kind of language is used in them. And analysis of discourse, so what people say in what situations, because you remember discourse is the text immersed in context in some communicative situations. But as we teach at universities, we cannot avoid taking into account institutional needs. In many cases, these standards describe the level. For example, our standard gives us the level B2 for non-linguistic students, C1 for linguistic students as the level they need to achieve at the end of a course of study at the university. Federal standards, they are rather vague. That is why we can interpret them a bit vaguely as well. And we do not have to forget, we can't forget the requirements of the universities that require that our students start publishing and taking part in international projects already when they are students, bachelor or master's students. So institutional needs have to be taken into account too. So after having revealed all these situations, discourse practices, texts, tasks, and the language needed for this, to realize these tasks, course designers come to the contextual realization. This is, in my opinion, where the so-called subjective needs play a very important role, because only students can say if these materials, especially if the ESP materials are novel for them, if they present challenge, if they have visual and not only visual appeal, if they are relevant to their specialization, and if they actually like them. So after having collected the context and having identified the language we have, we need to choose according to what we have found out in our needs analysis. We come to the pedagogical realization, that is creating activities for our course, or for maybe a book, textbook we're writing for our course. So Tomlinson, he actually identifies several principles, he calls them principles, of course design. Pedagogical realization actually can be described in three of them. firstly, exposure to language in authentic use. So students have to be able to read and to listen to, maybe watch some content that is related to their discipline and that is authentic. And so for high levels especially. Then some attention to linguistic features should be attracted. So some tasks, they are called noticing, as you may know, should encourage them to study this context and to try to understand what role, what function the linguistic features play and try to work with them. And after maybe some drills, opportunities to use the language in communicative situations or to create some real life products. For example, maybe it's a report for an engineer or a proposal for some technical worker, a proposal to create something. So speaking about authenticity, there are tasks that we can create. Of course, we cannot avoid some tasks that can be considered non-authentic, such as reading a text in their specialization and doing multiple choice to understand if they understood the text. But again, there is a danger here. If we create this multiple choice, we can underestimate the knowledge. Sometimes our students' knowledge in specializations, sometimes I knew these cases when instructors created MCQs that accompany texts in some specializations, and students are able to do them without reading the text at all, because it goes without saying for them which variant, which option to choose, because it's just their subject, they know it very well. So maybe we should focus on language more than on the content, or we should understand that the content we are asking our students to engage with is challenging enough, and there is some novelty, not just the repetition of what they already know. Okay, so if you're still with me, maybe you will write the numbers of the tasks that you think are not that authentic in an ESP class. Just the number. Among the tasks, we have translation, making notes, reading and doing multiple choice, writing a proposal, talking to a patient, a kind of role play, or defining terminology.
So colleagues, please participate in the discussion.
Just a number.
So we have one answer.
Translation, I agree, because it's a task that only translators do on a regular basis. Actually, in real life, engineers or medical professionals need translation very, very rarely, maybe never. Yeah, and the rest will depend on the specialization we teach, because sometimes writing a proposal is what they really need, because they, in business, for example, they need to propose something, and to get financing for that. And sorry, if we speak about contexts, of course, teacher-made texts are not that authentic in many cases, because again, we're not specialists in this profession. But other students' papers may be a good source of both content and language that can be not only copied but also analyzed for mistakes, for something that should not be repeated. And after we have created our texts and materials, pedagogical methodological materials that accompany the text and the linguistic material, we ask our students to evaluate them, to try and to evaluate them. I don't have much time, so I will speak about evaluation very quickly. So actually, they can evaluate them very well via surveys, in interviews, and what we need to, include into evaluation. Actually, this overlaps with needs analysis. I would say that needs analysis can be extended to the evaluation stage or evaluation. It actually surpasses the whole course design cycle, because they evaluate their needs and then they evaluate what we have created according to their needs. And so they can firstly evaluate if there is appeal, novelty, variety, challenge in the materials, if self-investment is needed, if they're maybe boring or too challenging for them, or not challenging enough. Our students can say if they're relevant to their specialization or not. And if they have enough exposure to language in authentic use, if the linguistic features of the input are identified and they really practice them in semi-communicative maybe and in communicative situations, and if they are satisfied with the outcome, maybe the products they have to create within the course, and so on and so forth. So this is a course, English, Advanced English for Humanities, me and my colleagues created. It's very wide ESP, we can say, but anyway, we conducted needs analysis for this course. Well, firstly, we asked our graduates what they need English for. Mostly, this is for delivering, it is needed for delivering presentations, giving persuading talks, writing correspondence, writing academic papers, because many bachelors continue their study on master's courses. And when we were using these materials in the real classroom, we have more than 200 students on our third year, actually, each year, and for 3 years we asked them to evaluate these courses, and we gradually improved the course and made them more relevant to their needs and to their wants and to their wishes. And actually, we asked about not only the content but our the effective factors. It turned out, to my personal surprise, that effective factors really play a huge role in course evaluation, but by our students. Okay, I have to be finishing, so you can contact me via my HEC email, and I hope my presentation was of at least some use for you. Thank you.